Well, today in our video, we're going to be talking about the congregations in which we serve. None of us serve in isolation, and we only really exist as the gathered body of Christ when we come together. And so it's really important to talk about the congregations and how we navigate interacting with the congregation, how we receive feedback, how we get it really at the heart of our people. And so that's kind of what we're going to be talking about as we dive into this topic today. So I think the first question is how do we build relationships with our congregations, and how do we speak life into people? How do we get to know our people so that way we can understand how we can serve them well?
I think one of the first things to consider is that your people need to know you as a person, not just as the person who's up on the platform. And that's a lesson that I learned way too late. Honestly, it took me a long time to get to know the people in my congregation. I felt like there was a roadblock there for so long that it was easy for them to see me as somebody other than a person. So I received a lot of feedback early on, also due to poor performance, but also because it was just easy for them. They didn't know me as a human being. So I think the more you build relationships, the more you are with people outside of the church, even if it's just as simple as taking them to lunch after church, where they get to see you and get to know you around a table. Maybe you show up in the hospital room, maybe you show up at their kids' baseball game, things like that. I think that kind of practice as a leader probably doesn't get talked about enough. And I think that's really important. And honestly, a lesson I'm still trying to learn.
Yeah, I think Jordan makes a great point, because most of the time in my time in ministry, when I would receive feedback from someone that was really super negative, we wouldn't know each other at all. And what I found out was, take for example, a couple of years ago, I received a letter in the mail, came to the church. And it was extremely negative about, song choice. It just wasn't this lady's preference for the service. And what I realized is that, I need to call this lady. She actually left her number. And when I called her, she was really shocked that I took the time to call her. And I think she was a little embarrassed about what she said. And I quickly said, don't be embarrassed about your opinions. But I don't even really know you. So let's get to know each other first. And what I found out was that she lived alone since COVID. Her kids were nervous about her getting out, and she had no one to talk to other than family. And her only lifeline was our church community online, which really wasn't much of anything except for a couple of posts during the service. And so people are genuinely desiring community and back and forth. And I think a lot of times that's where that feedback comes from. And we don't respond to, necessarily squelch anything or say, don't do that again, but it opens up a nice dialogue between people.
Yeah, I really like how do we humanize, right? So we want people to see us as humans, as people with feelings and thoughts and families, and we're people. But our congregation also wants to be seen as people. Yeah, and so we want to be humanized, but we also need to humanize others and build relationships and try and bridge those gaps, because people do get surprised when they get a phone call or they get a response back that it's actually not just, hey, thank you for your feedback, but it's really diving in and hearing what they have to say and maybe explaining or clarifying if there's a need for that. They're really taking the time, because then it speaks value into them. And they're like, oh, wait, maybe he's not such a bad person after all.
Yeah, and a lot of people think that worship arts ministry is a ministry of presentation, right? But discipleship, worship arts ministry, it is a ministry of being present. And every Sunday, our pastors are at the door, shaking people's hands, hugging people, praying for people that are coming in and out. I've never been a place anywhere quite like it. It's a little bit kind of a traditional model, but I mean, we do hospital calls, we are in the trenches, and you're exactly right. Like if you aren't present with your people, there's just a great divide, and the only way to get past that is really, I think it's on all of our parts to take the first step and say, this is not just about some priestly ministry, and let's not get it mixed up. We're in this together.
Right. And as we get to know our people, we learn their stories, and we learn why something was brought up that, because we have such a unique position as the worship pastor. Number one, we're very seen, we're very visible. So if we're out on a Sunday, people know because they just didn't see you that morning. And so, but we also are a part of a ministry that is obviously the easiest in a lot of ways to be attacked and to be maybe attacked is a strong word, but I'm sure we've all felt under attack many times. And so, but that's because people bring so much preference into that space. And so, but part of that preference is because of their history and their testimony. And so I remember when I first started in this position, Derek Witten, who's a pastor now in Texas, was our youth pastor at the time. And he had told me that people, the songs that they were saved under becomes such a resonating soundtrack in their life that is important to them. And so this is why music and worship, man, what a wonderful tool that we have, but it can also be such a divisive thing in our congregations because we're so opinionated in it. And so I think what you're saying, Nick, is so right that when those comments come through and it can feel like such an attack on us, I think our first posture is there's something deeper here. Let's go deeper. Let's sit down. Tell me about what's your testimony with the Lord? What does this song mean to you that this song doesn't? I think it's good to have that conversation because coming back to the table, sitting across the table from one another, man, we can have such good conversations there and really learn why our people are saying the things that they are. And I don't know, I just think that that's important. So I love that, Nick.
I think humility is important, right? We talk about from the aspect of the congregation and seeing them, but I also think we do have to turn inward and consider ourselves a bit too. Why did that hit us a certain way? Why were we offended? I always, when it comes to criticism, I ask, or feedback, whichever, critical feedback, I ask one, is it true? Is it true or not? Am I responding the way I'm responding? One, because it's true. Two, does it hit an area of woundedness in me? Is that the reason why I responded? So maybe there's an unhealed space in me. If it's not true, what may be the seat that they sit in, and am I willing to see their perspective? And so for the worship leader, worship pastor, or pastor, whoever is doing the music, humility is important. Because again, we don't do worship leading and pastoring in a silo. It's not about us. It's not our performance hour or our solo hour, right? We come for the gathered body. And so there's going to be times when they're not going to like the song, and there's going to be times where you don't like the song. That's the question to ask ourselves. Are we only doing songs that we like? Yeah. Then it's about us. If we're only doing songs that we like, so we gotta ask ourselves some tough questions. And my first assignment in the Nazarene Church was Grand Rapids International Fellowship. They had been an all-white church for 99 years, and the neighborhood changed. And so they were like, either we gonna move to the suburbs and stay our kind, or we gonna be right here in this neighborhood and we gonna figure out what to do. And so they said, we're gonna stay here, and hiring me was one of the first things they figured out what to do, I guess. And so I walked in the church first Sunday, and I remember, I don't know if you guys ever remember the song Whitney Houston song, I Can Go to the Rock. I sang that song that Sunday. Y'all, I sang that song, you hear me? And when I was done, it was crickets. And I was like, oh, Jesus, this is gonna be a long ride if this is what we're doing. And so, but about a year after that, one of the things I knew immediately was that I had to learn the Nazarene hymnal. There's no way that I am going to introduce new things without showing them that I'm willing to learn what already existed there. So I spent the whole year, Steve Martin helped me learn the Nazarene hymnal. And after the first year, we had like a gathering, and one of the team members said, you know, when you got here, I thought you were gonna make us sing like a whole bunch of gospel songs. And I was like, okay, where is this going? And she was like, no, you learned our hymnal and it became yours. And we sang together. And I'm more than ready now to learn anything you want to teach me. And that becomes super important. So we got to look inward and do our own some assessments there. And then, as we're considering what it looks like to be with the gathered body, you're going to get some feedback. You're going to get some feedback. It is what it is, because, the music is the soundtrack of our life, and it shapes our identity. I'm an 80s girl all day long, classic rock. So I love every ballad that they come out with. Go write some more ballads. But it's just the soundtrack that speaks to my heart where other things don't, right? And that's a reality for all of us. And it becomes important that we, as worship pastors and leaders, or those who are selecting the music, remember that. There are a lot of soundtracks in our congregations, and we need to figure out how to figure out what they are and then proceed.
Yeah, what you were outlining just reminded me of a phrase that I've tried to latch onto, and that's that the pursuit of God's presence would be greater than the pursuit of my preference. Mm-hmm. Just to be like, Lord, it's what do I have to do to bridge whatever divide there is, so that at the end of the day, we're having a conversation where we know that you're present, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's good.
I remember feeling frustrated early on because I'm also a ballad girly, and I was always trying to do these ballad worship songs, and the congregation was just not responding in ways that I wanted them to. But then I realized that the culture of this church was anthems and very proclamation song. And man, that is what they latched onto. And so when you can get past your own preference and stop trying to do what you want to do, I have songs that I call my prayer closet songs, and that's for me and the Lord. And that might not be what maybe the Holy Spirit guides us to sing that song on a given Sunday, but there's a lot of songs I'm like, this one. But the people latch onto it in ways that community needs at that time. And so we have to let go of our own preferences, and yeah.
And I think you got to harness that for a minute, though.
Yes.
Let's camp there for a minute. There are some songs that are for your prayer closet. Not every song that comes into your space is meant to be done in the context of that community. And maturity and wisdom says we got to learn how to figure that out. There are some songs that become a part of your identity, but it's really not meant to be sung out there, and to know the difference. And it's not always easy to know the difference, especially when you've been singing your heart out in every space you can, and you hum it, and they be like, oh, you sing, and you like, yes, and you keep singing, and it's like, oh, somebody else loved it. That's between you and Jesus. That was the gift he gave you, and to be able to know the difference becomes important.
Go back, you mentioned humility. Are there specific character qualities along that line that we think is important to be able to have, work on, pursue in order to be able to navigate relationships and navigate receiving feedback?
Close your mouth and open your ears.
I think knowing the difference between fear of God and fear of man is so big here in this conversation, because if we live in the realm of fear of man, then every critique that comes our way will be soul-sucking to us and will be a punch in the face to us. But if we say, no, I'm gonna live in fear of God, and that's my vision, and that's the vision for my life and this ministry and what God has placed me at, then this critique is not an attack on me and my character. I have to, does that make sense? I don't know. I've just been thinking a lot about that in this realm of when it comes to critique, and And man, fear of God says, or fear of man says scarcity. It's about me, and that's an attack on me. And fear of God says, no, there's something else here that we need to work through to figure out why you're coming at me like this. And that's not an overnight thing. That's something that we go to in prayer and ask God to reveal to us. And so I don't know if anybody wants to talk about that a little bit more, but as you were saying that, that's what came to mind.
Yeah. I think when you think about feedback, right, like the greatest divide is always it's my intention versus my impact, right? And I think we need the Lord to help us realize the difference between those two things so we can actually kind of reduce that blind spot that we have. But man, it's always like you just sit down with somebody and it works for you as the person that receives it, and it works for you as the person who's seeking. It's like, I don't know if you realize the impact of what this was, but could we just talk about that for a minute and then let the Lord begin to move in that to where you realize you're like, oh no, that's not what I meant at all. And then you're able to find, like, going back to what you were saying, like what percentage of this is for me. And I think when we invite the Holy Spirit into that conversation, the percentage of what's for me, it always increases.
Mm-hmm. And Sean is right when he said, shut your mouth and open your ears. Learning to bridle our tongue is so important. And not just in how we respond to the person who gives the feedback, but then the other people around us. Because one of the things that it can be very easy to do is to get in our huddles with those, like, we just got this feedback with those who help plan. And then all of a sudden we're mounting up, those who support that. No, we shouldn't have got that feedback. We were doing the right thing. And again, that becomes fear of God over fear of man. I'm more concerned about how I'm feeling about with this feedback versus to what God may be speaking in this moment. And either way, he can speak, whether it's to reveal to us that was not the way that we should have walked in, or to reveal to us that this was the way to walk in it. And so, bridling our tongue becomes super important to make sure that we're hearing more than we're talking more when it comes to things like this.
Mm-hmm. So I was just going to add, like, the idea of curiosity, approaching a conversation with curiosity. That's something I've had to learn, because some of the feedback that I get that surprises me the most isn't what doesn't go well. If something doesn't go well or doesn't land, we're often not surprised to hear that. I'm most surprised to hear those little things that seem to really deeply resonate with people. And then you can ask the question, what might God be up to in this? What is God doing in our church, in our services? Things that I wasn't expecting to hear that just really seem to resonate with people. It kind of changes the trajectory. Instead of just hearing those critical comments of, yeah, this didn't work, or let's not try that again, or let's tweak it this way. Instead, we approach it as pastors, as people who are stewarding a congregation, stewarding moments with people, and we can attempt to be even more faithful in the future. Well, this seemed to work really well. Let's try to lean into that. What does that look like? Maybe it's a kind of song, maybe it's a kind of response, or a specific person that we've given a shot to. That, the way that they communicated this idea or this concept or this song seemed to really work. I think that's an important aspect of this too. So approaching it with curiosity instead of taking the words that are being delivered to us, instead wondering what's really behind that. And not just peeling away the layers of the ways we want to defend ourselves or protect ourselves, but instead to pour ourselves out even further, make ourselves even more vulnerable, and lean into what God might be doing there.
Yeah, particularly with music and anything creative, it's so personal.
Yeah.
And so I think back in a lot of the early years of ministry, I didn't respond well to criticism because it felt like a personal attack. And because it's like, wait, I spent all this time and we prayed about it, we thought, oh yeah, this is going to be great. And then it's like, then somebody's going to light me up and criticize. It's like, come on. And so you become defensive. Mm-hmm. And so, I think it's all really wise words about our posture and being able to be open. So real quick, just maybe talk about some practical things that you've put into place about how you like to receive feedback, maybe some processes for receiving and responding to feedback from the congregation and staff when it comes to planning for worship.
I think coming off what Sharon said about holding our tongue, bridling the tongue, I think a practice that I have had to learn that is so hard for me because I want things done and out of the way. But one, if an email comes through, I'm gonna respond or I'm gonna sit on it for a few days, maybe even a week. And if that means sending a message that says, hey, I've seen your email, I'm thinking through some things and I'm gonna get back with you. I think taking the time to do that, one, is important because my initial response is never always the right response. And so sometimes I have to get that out of the way. And I always feel more clear-headed with some time and some sleep and some prayer and some Holy Spirit. So that's one. And then two, on Sundays, because a lot of times I have learned people aren't thinking about the things they want to tell you until they're in your presence on Sunday mornings when there's 5 minutes left on the countdown and they have something like major that they need to tell you. And you're like, I'm about to, I don't know, lead us to the in worship, and you're telling me this right now, like you thought this was the best time, but they're not seeing the, they just see you and I'm going to tell you this right now. And so I have learned that it is okay to say, thank you. Now is not the time to talk about that. I would love to talk to you about this. I'm in the office Monday through Thursday. Send me a text after service, send me an email, and we'll get that scheduled. I really do want to talk about it, but now's not the time. I have had to learn that that is the right way to do it because otherwise I feel frustrated in the moment. I feel frazzled. It leaves me feeling frazzled when I'm about to go and lead worship. And so I just think it's a good practice to say, hold that thought. If it's important to you today, then it'll be important to you tomorrow. Send me a text, send me an email. Let's talk about it. And then holding our tongue on emails and just giving it some time to breathe. That's a practice for me that I've really had to take up for the betterment of all involved.
I think Michelle's right. And I also think that it's important to go ahead and write that response email immediately and then save it to drafts.
Yeah.
Because there's been times when, when you read that and you sense that something's like welling up inside of you, that you just have to get it out. And so if you write it in, maybe it's too scary to write it inside the email, but maybe you write it in notes. I mean, it sounds goofy, but it really is a great practice to just get that out and then come back the next day and read that and think how ridiculous that would have been to send that,
Yeah.
And really what that saves you from is saying something that you'll regret. And it's not that you would necessarily put anything mean in there or intend that it would be rude, but it does come across in your tone, that you're responding with. And so I always feel like if you can get together in person, even if it was the original email, the original send was an email, you want to get together in person because then you can really see the heart behind what you're saying on all parties involved. And then I would also say that when you receive an email, take it to your pastor and say, you think is there anything here? Do you see anything in me that I need to change? I mean, do you think this aligns with our mission, vision, and values here? And I think, if you have a good relationship there, I think they'll be open and honest with you about whether or not you need to concern yourself with these things. And then I think it's still important, even if there's nothing there, that you meet with that person and say, you know what, this is where we're landing with our mission, vision, and values. And these things don't really align with that. I think it brings everybody together in a good way.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about that idea of vision and mission. What are your values? Because that's a filter.
Yes.
And when you have that identified, when somebody is saying, well, I think you should have done this, or I didn't like this, you can go back and say, well, because we value this, or because this is our focus or our vision, we made these decisions to fulfill, and fill in the blanks. And so it makes it helpful to have those things identified, especially like, hey, I'm sure all of us get complaints, oh, it's too loud, or this was, well, when you have something that's established, hey, we're gonna have this level of volume in the room, that's our target, that's where we wanna live. It's easy to go back and say, hey, I talked with our sound person, and this is kind of the target range that we've set, and he was in the service. We did get a little above that, and we try not to do that, but he did say we did get a little above that, and we apologize. We do work really hard at that. Or be able to say, hey, we're kind of within our range, and try and pare down, like, hey, where were you sitting, and trying to understand maybe more about what it was. But really articulating like what our standards are, what our vision and what our filters are really, really helps navigating some of these conversations.
I also think, going back to what Nick said as he started, with the little lady who sent the note, there was one, she signed her name and her email or her phone number. First thing, I'll be honest, anonymous notes I don't do. Like, we are the body of Christ, like, seriously. You don't get to take shots at staff or team, so probably anonymous notes I'm not gonna do. If there is a theme, that's one thing, but still anonymous notes I'm not a fan of. But the second thing is, sometimes the person writing, if you don't take the opportunity to call to get to know, there's a backstory, and the backstory doesn't even have anything to do with you. You're just the person in that moment that speaks to whatever it is in that backstory. And humility helps you to say, maybe it's just not about me. Maybe this isn't about the blood, sweat, and tears and the nights that I stayed up making sure. Maybe it's just not about me at all. And again, that takes us all the way back to caring for congregation. Right. And so I think it is kind of cyclical when we think about it that way, when humility and just this whole process, if it's not about us, we got to remember that, part of what we do, or all of what we do, is for the gathered body. My prayer closet is my prayer closet. It impacts the gathered body, but remembering that keeps in mind that, okay, feedback is okay. It's not going to kill me, and it's not going to crush me. And it's not, it isn't an evidence that the Spirit isn't moving in me. It's just evidence that in this gathered body, we are living life together. And that is sometimes what it looks like.
Yeah, I think that's a good word, and a good word to land. And I hope, maybe in our discussion, this has been very rich and helpful, and hopefully there's been something that resonates with you as you continue to serve in your context.